Almost there.
Yeah.
It's taking its sweet time. There you go. Okay.
Ready? Great. So welcome to the Trails Committee meeting on Tuesday, September 14th, 2021, and we are calling the meeting to order at 6:37. We no longer have to read the preamble, so that's exciting news. Welcome, everyone. Okay, so we are going to give
Roll call. Yeah.
Oh, thank you. Roll call attendance. When I call your name, please say you're present. Satyendra Sharma.
Present.
Isabel Murphy.
Present.
Tom McCoolier.
Present.
And Kat McKee. Present. Great. And can someone keep an eye on the attendee list? Oh, can we promote? Oh, I can do that. Can I promote Tony?
Yes, you should be able to.
Ooh, I don't have rights right now to do so. I'm right clicking on his.
Oh, no, Isabel is the host
Oh.
now. So Isabel.
Oh, okay. Thank you, Isabel. Do you mind promoting Tony?
I think I just did. Oh, let me do it again.
Oh, I see he's disappeared.
There he is.
There he is.
All right.
Hello, Tony.
Hey, Tony.
Hi, everyone.
Hi, how are you doing?
It's nice to see you all.
Thank you, and you too.
Good to have you. So I was just saying to Peter that we'll give Nick a few more minutes to join. So we're going to kind of, I'll have Tony introduce himself and I'll give a little bit of background, and then once Nick joins us, we'll start with that topic for the Aqueduct Trail project.
Yeah, I may have to exit at about a little bit before 7, but I'll hang in until hopefully Nick shows up.
Okay, that sounds great, Peter.
Thank you.
Yeah. So everybody, we met with the Board of Selectmen last week, which we'll talk about when we get to that agenda item about possibly adding a couple of associate members. And Tony is one of the original 5 from the Trails Committee. So welcome, Tony. He actually reached out, I think it was last year too, interest in the Trails Committee. We didn't have an opening at the time. And this year it had just been filled after he had reached out. So we're hoping that we can have him and Will join us in this associate position. And Tony, why don't you introduce yourself and tell us a little bit about why you want to join Trails and your interest and what you hope to accomplish by doing so.
Okay, hello again, everyone. My name is Tony Schoener. I live here in Southborough. I have for 30 years. It's hard to believe. I was part of the Trails Committee when it was created. When was that? 8 years ago, maybe?
2013. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and it was great to be part of that process of kicking off the committee. I really enjoyed working with the other members at the time, and it was just really interesting watching it unfold as the committee was wrestling with trying to get legal approval from the various state agencies for the various trails in town. And then starting to coordinate with other towns, committees in other towns on doing some joint activities. And so it was a good experience. I think we made good progress. I'm an avid walker. I'm out on the trails all the time anyways. And so, I stepped down after 2 years, I think it was, because my work life changed significantly. And I just didn't have time anymore. But I have time now again. And so if there's some way of helping again, I'd love to. And I give you guys all immense credit for the progress you make every day on the trails, right? It's work. But I tell you what, I think everyone in town appreciates the work on the trails. So I know I do. So that's my intro.
Great. Welcome and thank you. That we're just so honored to have you come back. And I think it's you basically you're one of the ones who laid the foundation for all the work that we could do. We're grateful to all of you.
Just have one question, Tony. What's your favorite trail in town?
I like walking along the viaduct, actually, and I just really enjoy parking up near the cemetery, right, and walking west towards Westboro.
That is beautiful.
I enjoy that stretch a lot, actually.
Yeah. I love that section too.
Mhm.
Great. All right, so that's a good intro into our next topic, which is approving the minutes. Did everyone have an opportunity to take a look at the minutes that Betsy drafted and that I circulated this morning? Were there any questions or edits? Okay. If there are none, can we get a motion to approve?
I will make a motion to approve the minutes of August 24th.
Okay, I'll second that.
Great. And all in favor, when I call your name, let me know. Satyendra Sharma,
Yes.
Isabel Murphy,
Yes.
Tom McCoolier,
Yes.
and Kat McKee. Great. Wonderful. Okay, so let's see. Next up, we have, the charter change discussion, the Board of Selectmen recap. So actually, Tony was interviewed by the board just before I had a moment to discuss the Aqueduct Trail and the charter change. So the conversation with the Board of Selectmen on the 8th went very well. It was a good discussion about why we wanted to take this approach of adding 2 non-voting associate members instead of adding two full committee members. We were not interested in increasing quorum, and we had quorum problems before COVID, and we do expect it could happen again. So we just thought, after a lot of research, that this might be a good approach for us. So there were 2 topics. One was that, and the other topic was converting from an ad hoc committee, which is usually a project-based committee that ends up dissolved after the project is done, and then or a standing committee. So we're currently ad hoc. Everyone on the board was in favor of helping us, and they have to write a bylaw in order and vote at town meeting next spring. So everyone was in favor of converting from an ad hoc to a standing committee. So that was very positive. There was a split of the board as far as whether we should go with non-voting associate members. Two Board of Selectmen were for it. 2 were not so comfortable with it, and 1 was on the fence. And the primary issue for those that weren't quite on board had to do with, is this a potential for open meeting law violation? A concern that this might set a precedent perhaps for other committees and, that kind of thing. So we talked through some of those issues, and that's why I attended the Board of Selectmen office hours just before this meeting, because a couple of the board that did have concerns, I wanted to understand a little bit more about why they had concerns. And so I think one of the issues expressed was, if there's turnover on the board here, actually, there's a little bit of background noise. I'm not sure who that, if we could. Yeah, thank you so much. That's so much easier. Okay. So basically, if the concern is, if we have a non-voting associate member and then there's a turnover in the Trails Committee, and then there's a turnover in the Board of Selectmen meeting, the Selectmen group, then it might get missed that this non-voting associate member has to follow open meeting law and conflict of interest law. The way I presented it, and I will include it in the meeting minutes, and I don't know if I circulated it or not, but I'll circulate it, the memo, the letter that we sent to the board, documenting how we would approach this. I kept it very light without a lot of details, but basically this would be a member who would be appointed by the board. They have to get sworn in, or whatever the new process is. They have to go through the open meeting law training, the conflict of interest training, and sign all those forms that say they agree to everything. So that then makes them an official volunteer for the town. So they then have to abide by open meeting law. They're trained, they're educated. And so I, personally don't feel that just because we're 7 and not 5, that there's going to be a chance of open meeting law violation. I'm not convinced that that's a valid argument, but what we'd like to do is research and ensure that, we're covering our bases. And I also provided a couple of examples of towns. For example, Foxborough and Westborough have a committee handbook, And they detail a non-voting associate member in those handbooks. So it has been used by other towns. One of the things I volunteered to do was look for a few more towns and actually talk to like maybe Westboro and ask them what their experience has been with the non-voting associate members. How has that gone? Do they have any issues, pros and cons of both, and bring that objective research back to the board so that they can make a more informed decision. And hopefully we'll come up with some good, better reasons or more supportive documentation and reasons why this will work. I think Sam Stivers mentioned that he follows the open meeting law violations pretty closely. He seems to have a thing about that. So he said he has never seen an open meeting violation related to this type of structure, committee structure. So that's a positive. And so then one of the questions, was why don't you just raise your number to 7? And, again, I shared with them that we have been counseled by some wise people that we don't necessarily want a higher quorum, especially if we were having trouble meeting quorum before. And if we can, this is another way of it's a different approach, and it's done by other towns. And, there's some good reasons to do it. So onward. Yes, Tom, you're on mute.
Hang on. There it goes. Just a question about the quorum and open meetings. So sometimes, like there has been in the past, Kat, me and you were with the volunteers together. There's only 2 of us, so it's not a quorum.
Correct.
But then say Tony or Bill joins us. Now
Yes.
there's 3 of us.
Right.
Now, is that going to be considered a quorum or no quorum?
Well, it does create a quorum. So what that means is we can't talk about trails business and deliberate. We can't make decisions, right?
I thought we couldn't really hang out together with 3 or more. I guess
Well,
I don't know.
we
the
can do trails work. Like you can do a site visit with an entire committee. And as long as you don't deliberate, we've done this with stewardship, right? We've
Okay.
gone out with a consultant and we've looked at the different, the trees, the apple trees that need to be assessed. And we're not allowed to deliberate and make decisions there. We have to bring all of that back to the meeting and have the meeting in the public forum. That's the objective, right? So if we're doing
Okay.
trails work, maintenance work, all 5 of us can be together. We just can't make decisions about upcoming projects, right? We can talk about, does that weed need to be chopped? And we're not going to get an open meeting violation, I promise you.
I'm sorry to be picky about that, but it's
No. We have to be picky about that because it is a very specific set of guidelines that we have to follow. I remember when I first joined the committee, it took me a while to get my head wrapped around that, what it means, what we can and what we can't do. So any other questions or thoughts on that or feedback?
No, I think that makes complete sense. And I think exactly to your point, we can certainly be together, we can socialize. We just can't get 3 of us together and make a decision about where the Trails Committee is going without, making it a public meeting.
Exactly. Right. And documenting in the minutes. Yes, Will.
One question would be, these 2 non-voting members, do they count as part of a quorum?
No, that's the
Okay,
objective.
so if they're there or not there, it doesn't affect the quorum, it doesn't affect open meeting law requirements, correct?
Well, it doesn't impact quorum, but what we're trying to make sure is that open meeting law still applies.
2 different things.
Okay, so participants, or let's say these non-voting members, have to adhere to open meeting law as if they were part of a quorum, I guess.
As part of the committee.
Correct. Yeah, so I think, as part of the committee, but I see what you're saying, that they could create a quorum for the purposes of open meeting law definition is what you're saying, I think, right, Will? Am I interpreting that correctly?
Yes.
Yeah, yes, that's
And
right.
I think what you're saying is that for the purposes of open meeting law, they do count as part of a quorum.
Right, and I think that's where we have to really define it on
Okay.
paper, in print, for everybody to really feel
Okay.
comfortable. Yeah, I can't.
The only thing I would disagree with Bill's statement is it doesn't have to do anything with quorum. It only happens to with open meeting.
Well, I think
Is-
what Bill means is the whole point of deliberation is when you have a number of, if your committee is quorum, if your committee's quorum is 3, this is a specific question that was just asked in the office hours. So if your committee has a quorum and it's 3, then that's what I think Bill is referring to. So if we had 1 non-voting member and 2 members, that does count in this open meeting law definition as quorum.
Right.
It won't count. It's a little tricky because we're using the word quorum and we all know that means you know, but it does count.
Could we check on that one? That's not my understanding. So I think we need some clarification on that.
Yeah.
Well,
My understanding is to reach quorum, it needs to be a quorum of committee members.
okay, so yes, that's correct. But for the purposes of open meeting law and deliberation, what we're trying to say in order to ensure that we're not breaking open meeting law, that we would be willing to say that the non-voting member would actually need, that would count towards it for
Oh,
the purposes only of open meeting law. It would not count towards quorum. Like we could not meet as a committee if we were lacking 3 full voting members, right? We would have to have 3 voting members to meet,
okay,
right? To meet like this, because
Right.
a non-voting member doesn't have to be there. But we do need 3 voting members to meet. But for the purposes of open meeting law, this is where we're switching it. That non-voting member is still counted as a true member for the purposes of open meeting law. So 3 equal quorum. That's a little confusing, and I see the challenge that we're going to have in trying to explain that.
Yeah.
So we're
Hey,
going to have to use words wisely and concisely to make sure that's clear.
hey, Kat, can you promote Isabella?
Oh,
Sorry.
Bella, yeah. Oh, wait, actually, I don't have the power.
I can,
Oh.
hold on.
Okay.
I am powerless.
So I think, like I said, it's probably part of the deliberation that the Board of Selectmen will have on this. Now, question, and we don't have to answer it, if it's really becomes tricky, and I know we have caveats of going from 5 to 7, would we revisit that? If it's just too complicated with the open meetings, quorum, et cetera, would we reopen the discussion around upping it to 7 members?
I mean, I'm not fully against it. I think I would want a commitment from the people that we have here to say, you know, I'm going to be able to make most of the meetings. Like if we have a committee member, and this is how it started, like if we have a committee member who can't make 70% of the meetings and puts the quorum pressure on the rest of the committee, that's my concern. And we lived,
we lived it. Yes.
Did Bella not get over yet?
I don't understand why I can't. I think either we have a limit or I'm no longer the host because I can't bring her in.
Oh,
You're the host now, Kat.
What's that?
Kat is the host now.
Oh,
how did you know that?
It shows
It flashes on the screen a
there
little
she
bit.
is.
Hi, Bella. I'm so sorry. I didn't mean to deny you entry for so long.
No, it's okay. I'm sorry for being late. My computer decided to update during all this. So
No, that's okay. We were in the middle of something important. What was it? That yes, I would consider 7, but I want them to really consider this suggestion. How about
Yep.
that? Like
Agreed.
because we have 2 live humans here that say yes, I want to be there. I would really consider it. But I'm concerned I'm not really concerned, but would the board allow us to have, since we have 2 active members active people that are currently interested, would they want to then put it out to the community and open up the seats and see who comes in and then make a decision based on that? And that's, I understand fair game type stuff, but I've heard that a couple times, and I was just wondering if that's something you guys think would happen. And Tim has his hand raised, so I'm going to allow him to to talk unless someone has a quick response that I shouldn't jump around because I'm doing that.
Oh, here's something in the chat, Tim. Does deliberation can only happen with voting members. The only concern is serial deliberation through a non-voting member.
So I have a little experience with this stuff, having gotten so far 2 committees converted from ad hoc committees to standing committees. And in each case, I did most of the heavy lifting in terms of figuring out, how to make things work. So I'm willing to help you folks with this. As far as this business with quorum, don't use the word quorum when you're talking about non-voting members. They don't count. You can't have a deliberation if you're not, if the people talking can't vote. And that's basically, the way things work. There are other solutions to the quorum issue. So one of them I put in the MTC bylaw, and it basically says if someone doesn't attend a certain percentage of the meetings, then after a hearing, they're out. Goodbye. They're no longer a member, and that solves that problem. The second part of the solution is to state that, in the bylaw, that quorum for your committee is a majority of the members serving. So that means if you have an open slot, for example, because someone left for non-participation, your quorum is computed as though the size of the committee didn't include them.
Okay.
But what do you do, Tim, if it's an even member committee? It's
still the majority.
Is 3 a majority?
Well, give me a number. If the number is
6.
is
6.
4,
If we have 6 active members, like you said, one, whatever.
then a majority is half plus 1.
So we would still
You
need
need
4
4.
members. So it doesn't really, I don't see how that helps us.
Well, it helps you because someone who isn't performing the duties of a member, that is attending the meetings, stops being a member.
Right. And then you can look for another member.
And you can look for another person.
Right. So in other words, it gives us a way to terminate a member before his or her term expires.
Right. And then someone gets appointed to the unexpired term.
Okay.
Now, obviously, you hope you pick people so this doesn't happen.
Yeah.
Right. See, that's what I would love to avoid. And I don't mean to be so conflict adverse as I'm about to show my true colors, but I am. I don't want to have a conflict. I don't want to have to remove anyone from the committee. I would like to have a situation where, say, we have someone with real talents, which this was a true story. We have someone with real talents that we can leverage, and this is how the whole thing couldn't attend all meetings, right? That's the brilliance of this non-voting, this associate member, is because they don't need to attend every meeting. The pressure's off, but they still get to share their talents with us, and that was kind of the benefit.
I understand, and screening is important. The other thing is that if you attended the Board of Selectmen meeting, I didn't, but I just reviewed the video. I was called out as a particularly dangerous person for some of the things I do around town. So I did start drafting an article that would turn you into a standing committee. Kat has a copy of the draft, and she ought to circulate it to the rest of you. I'm happy to work on that. I have some questions for you folks in terms of, what we would do with it. But I did include, a sentence that allows the selectmen, in consultation with the committee, to appoint additional non-voting members. And the only restriction I put on it was that, they have to be residents. They don't have to be registered voters.
That was interesting, Tim. I didn't know, do we as committee members have to be registered voters?
Most committees have that restriction.
Know that.
I didn't either.
But I always like to make things explicit.
Yeah, I love explicit too.
That's why, in the past, when I've done things with town council, The comments are minimal. I'm an engineer, so I'm kind of picky.
Mhm.
So anyway, I think a standing committee is the way to go. It sounded to me as though the selectmen, I agree with Kat, that the selectmen are for it. The questions about open meeting law, I think, can be resolved. I agree with Marty Healy's comment that says, yeah, this is manageable. You just need to work it through.
Yeah.
As I say, I don't believe that you need anything, quote, for purposes of open meeting law. I mean, open meeting law is really clear. You know, a quorum is a quorum, and it deals with people who can vote, and deliberations by definition are people who can vote. If you look at the behavior of ex officio members on other committees, I mean, they can't vote and people talk. The serial issue is if you have a non-voting member who talks to one of you and then talks to another one of you about the same issue, and then talks to another one of you about the same issue, it can be viewed as serial communication, and that can make it look as though there was a quorum. So that's the only thing that you have to worry about. And that's something that A, you educate your non-voting members about, and B, you educate yourselves about, so that you say, have you talked to anyone else about it? Yep, you can't talk to me.
That's a
Bring
good
it to
point,
the
good
bring
point.
it to the meeting.
Okay. Perfect.
Excuse me, I'm gonna have to jump off, but I just
Yeah.
contacted Nick. He's on his way, sort of. So
He's actually in
Yeah,
the
I
meeting.
see him. I
Yep.
see him.
Do you want to
need
suspend
jump
this?
off,
And
so glad he's here, and I'll check in with him later. Thanks.
Okay, thanks, Peter. Sorry about that.
No, thank you. Appreciate it.
Great.
Take care.
So I'm going to promote Nick and then just continue for a moment or two just to ensure that we're properly with this topic.
well, we can come back. I mean, I think he deserves his time.
Okay, thank you, Tim. If you don't mind hanging tight, we can circle back. So is everyone okay switching gears?
Yes.
Welcome, Nick.
Sorry,
Yes,
just
yes.
before we continue, I have a quick question. Could you like give a brief rundown of what we were just talking about?
Yes, I'm going to do that for you just after we introduce Nick. I think we're going to let Nick, the Eagle Scout, go ahead and go over his project. We were talking about, just as recap, was the non-voting associate members that we had discussed last time, and we had a Board of Selectmen meeting on the 8th, and we were just discussing that conversation and some of the concerns they brought back. So we're strategizing about how to approach those questions and address them in the right way.
Okay, sounds good. Thank you.
We'll circle back again. Hi, Nick.
Hello.
How are you?
I'm good. How are you?
Good. Thanks for joining us tonight. Okay. So do you, why don't I give a brief intro into where we are with things, and then you can tell us where you are with your process, your workbook, and how things have been going on your end.
Okay.
Okay. So Nick has come forward to help us. He's offered and selected the project of completing the Aqueduct Trail Connector. It's a 500-ish foot trail that connects from the Bay Circuit trail that we worked on last year to the Pine Hill Road. And I can actually share my screen so that you can, see it better. Okay, screen 2, let's see. Trails. Okay, you guys can see this. Are you seeing a map now?
Yes.
Great. Okay, so this is the Bay Circuit Trail connector that we reconstructed last year. This is the Weston Aqueduct, if you see my mouse moving. And this trail that Nick has offered to construct for us would connect from this point all the way to the Weston Aqueduct. It would only be called the Aqueduct Trail. So this current Bay Circuit Trail connector dubs as a few trails. So it's partly the Aqueduct Trail, part Burroughs Loop, and part Bay Circuit Trail. We love having 3 trails in one inside. So this would just be the way that the Aqueduct Trail connects to its own trail itself. So that's the short of the project. And what needs to happen is MWRA has already approved doing this. So we've done a site visit. I met with Sean Nevin. We did a site visit. I met with Nick. He's done a site visit, and Peter joined us. So we have a sense of what the the scope is going to be. It's going to be a lot of, well, we can talk about that shortly. And so next step is we have an existing 8M permit for the Bay Circuit connector, and we want to expand that instead of create a new agreement. And that was MWA's suggestion. So we've submitted our work plan to MWA, and they are working with their legal department to expand the existing permit. That existing permit will also include the Peninsula Trail that we're working on. So instead of having 3 different agreements, they want to just have one, expand it to include both. Okay. And so one caveat that MWA has asked the Trails Committee to do is make sure that we know where these boundaries are. So I'm going to share my screen one more time and show you the work plan. Let's see, screen 2, and I'm going to bring up a PDF. And you should be seeing a map now. Does everyone see that?
Not yet.
Oh, because I have to hit the word share. Okay, now you see construction plan 2021.
Yep.
Okay, so all these pink lines don't make a lot of difference to us. So here, this is Pine Hill Road, if you see my little cursor, and this highlighted section in yellow is the easement that MWA owns that connects from the trail we were just chatting to Pine Hill. And on this either side are neighbors. So in this pink outline here, you'll see the same L shape, you know, or not, it's not an L, sorry. You'll see the same shape. And on either side are the abutters. So we need to figure out where the easement boundary, the property boundaries are. And so I've spoken to Nick, and he can talk a little bit about his thoughts on this, about working with a local surveyor that has some background with scouts, and to see if they can do a survey of this land and determine those property boundaries, because we don't want to build a trail on someone else's property. And as also part of that, we will be reaching out to the abutters. There's 2 or 3, and letting them know that this project is underway, and just to give them a heads up and ask them if they have any concerns that we need to address. So having done that bit of recap, Nick, I'll hand it over to you and let me know if you have any questions, or where are you in your process? We haven't really spoken to you yet about your workbook or what you need, or how your timeline is now that we're in September. So tell us what you get.
Well, for as far as the timeline goes, I think we're gonna have to do like most of the work of this project like as soon as possible, because once winter comes on, I think the workload will become like a lot more, trying to like do it with snow. Also, as for the surveyor, I'm gonna contact Glenn O'Donnell because he used to be like a leader in our troop, and I'm like also family friends with him, so I'm sure he'll be happy to help us with my Eagle project. Also, I think to reach out to the people like living around like the like area that we want to do that in. Like I don't know if we like necessarily know like them, like, or like have spoken to them at all, but like I guess we could find them through the town, I guess, but I'm not entirely sure.
Yeah, so we have a little experience with the abutter outreach, and we have a letter that we can amend pretty easily. And I spoke with the assessor's office, and so we have the addresses for the people that are abutting that, and we would be happy to reach out to them. And you know, I'll share the letter with you, and we can reach out this week and get that process started to see if there's any questions they have.
Okay, sounds good.
So have you, go ahead, Tom.
I was gonna say, Nick, with this trail, it crosses Pine Hill. Part of your Eagle project, did you raise funds to put like a sign at the road, so you have like a little idea where the road goes to South Row and where it heads towards Framingham?
Yeah, I think part of the project was going to be like adding in the trail markers to help people like, you know like where the trails go and what trails they connect to. We haven't really discussed the specifics of that yet, and I haven't raised money yet, but that's something I really need to get on, which is like unfortunate that I waited so long, but you know.
Yeah, it happens. We all do
It
it.
happens.
Tom does it all the time.
Welcome to the real world.
So one of the questions I reached out to Sean, I reached out to him yesterday to see how the permit was going, if he had any questions. I did ask him if we could get started with some of the preliminary work ahead of time, ahead of the permit. So I'm waiting for him to get back to us on that. And I'm thinking the survey is going to be fine. The butter outreach is probably going to be fine. My real question is, when can we shovel hit the ground? Do we have to have an executed permit, or can we be mostly there, or what is their requirement for that? That will help us know our timeline a little bit better.
Okay.
Now, do you have a workbook that you've completed and you've presented your project to the Boy Scout Council?
I have not presented it to the like Boy Scout troop yet, but I'm like working. I'm working on the workbook. I've done like quite a bit of it. I've tracked like the meetings that we've had, like when we went to the trail to visit it, and like the time I've spent like like thinking about it and planning it and stuff. But yeah, I haven't like really put that much time into it yet though, and I need to start shifting gears towards getting this done like quickly.
Okay, got it. Do you have an age out? Like, is there a timeline other than winter?
I turn 18 March 24th. So I need to have my like application for Eagle done by March 24th.
Okay, got it. So to Tom's point, is it possible to include some funds for a sign? I would probably, I think 2 small signs. It doesn't have to be very fancy, but one on the side where it's going to veer off of Bay Circuit Trail Connector, and then one that's going to be right on Pine Hill to say, hey, I'm a trail.
Yeah.
And you just research some trail signs and stuff like that and just make pictures of them. We can all discuss which ones. We're not looking into a big kiosk with a little roof and stuff, but just a simpler sign.
Yeah.
Okay.
And so, Nick, I did speak with the Board of Selectmen. They do want to have you present in front of them. I just asked them if they had any preliminary questions or concerns about the project. So a few of their questions related to the abutter outreach, and is there a fence on either side? How do we prevent people from walking on neighbors' yards? But if you remember the walkthrough, I believe the one neighbor that's closest has an existing chain link fence installed, and the other neighbor is so far away that if someone went into their yard, they purposely did so. It wasn't by mistake. So so that's going to be helpful. And they also asked about parking, if there was a way to put parking in. I just politely declined that was an option on Pine Hill Road. It's so narrow. There's no real parking option there. Even when we did our site visit, it was a little dangerous to park on the side there. And maybe down the road, when we work with Town of Framingham to connect the sections, there's a little gatehouse there with a paved little section. There might be a spot for one car, but it's not going to be a primary entry point for anyone to start there. They're going to start somewhere else and end up there. Okay. So, Nick, do you, let's see, so we'll have to look on the Board of Selectmen's schedule to see what time, what their next meeting is to get you on that schedule. I think they meet every other week, right? Twice a month. Is anyone, I think they're now back to that. I think for the summer, they might have gone down to once a month, but now I think it's every other week. So I think trying to read, and they usually need like your presentation. If their meeting is on Tuesday, they need it the Wednesday before. So they include it in the Board of Selectmen packet and then send it to the board to review in advance. So can anyone pull that up for me? If you go to the town's website and go to the last agenda for the Board of Selectmen, and you can see they'll have their meetings listed on the bottom of the agenda, and just see what the meetings are.
I believe the next one is on the 21st.
Great.
21st, and then October 1st is what they said.
Okay, October. Oh, wow. So
Hey, Nick, I got another question about the trail. As we know, discussing it seems very easy to do. In practice, as we all know, it's a lot of labor.
I was about to say, have you seen?
I'm assuming it's just not you and your troop is behind you. I just want to, not that you have to answer any of the questions, but I just want to make you realize it's a lot of physical work.
Yeah, I understand that it's a lot of labor, but I'm sure that a lot of the kids in my troop would be eager to get their service hours in. And like, I've been in the troop for a long time, and like a lot of the kids, I've helped them with their things. I'm sure they would be more than willing to help me with my project.
Perfect. I just want to like I said, it is labor intensive.
Yeah. And when we initially talked, we were going to partner with the Bay Circuit Trail Volunteer Group and see if they could help do a little 2-hour kickoff workshop to show some basic trail building options or skills. And so I did reach out to them. I never heard back. I could ping them again. I'll ping our contact and just see by chance if their group could do a 2-hour workshop, and that would kind of help advance the ball a little bit. And then I'm going to volunteer to do some of the trail work, and I'm sure some of our committee members here would be interested in helping as well. I will say that the very beginning section near Pine Hill is a field of poison ivy. So if you're highly allergic, you want to be really careful and wear a Tyvek suit. But what it might mean, Nick, is that now the season is kind of, dying down. That poison ivy, it's still active, but it's going to be, the brush might be easier to see where we're digging around and trying to dig down to dirt. So it might actually work out. And we do need to be careful over I believe that the field of poison ivy might be over a gas line, like a gas pipe down below. So we want to be careful about how far we're digging and making sure that we're using the right tools in that very sensitive area. So we'll get some guidance for that too. Anybody else have some questions?
What are we calling the connector? It is connected trail or for the signage purpose?
Yeah, so I've been shortcutting it, calling it the Aqueduct Connector Trail because it's connecting one trail to another. It's kind of like the Bay Circuit Trail connector. It's connecting Bay Circuit Trail from one piece to another. So we can determine we could call it just the Aqueduct Trail, but what I'm finding, and you guys might be in the same boat, is like the Aqueduct Trail and the Burrs Loop Trail and the Sudbury Reservoir Trail, it's all merging together, and having distinct little side names is helpful to identify a section. So like we're calling the Peninsula Trail, it's even, that's just nice to know where that is, because I know the peninsula is a peninsula, right? So that's why I was thinking the connector, but we can talk about what we want to call it for the sign purposes, because we do want to make sure it's consistent naming and we're not just creating more names that we have to handle. Thank you, Sati. Good question. Anybody else? Well, we're very excited. This is a great project. And when I talked about it at the Trails Summit, they were very excited. The local communities that are also involved in the Aqueduct Trail, MAPC, they've been wanting to get this section done since I came on the committee in 2017. So I know that they're excited about that. And we'll be working with Framingham to extend the rest of it. So we're going to go ahead and give them a heads up that we're doing that. So that we can, obviously when it's time to open it, we'll have a better sense of how far this is going to go and whatnot. So given the timeline for the Board of Selectmen meeting, it seems like the 21st, which is next Tuesday, which means you'd have to submit a presentation by tomorrow, might not work.
I have like a few slides of a presentation done where I just put some like general details I had, but this meeting is actually pretty helpful, with a lot of the things that I was missing. So I'll put together the rest of it tonight, and I'm gonna email it back to Mr. D again, and maybe I can email it to you, and you can just look at it quickly and let me know if I'm missing anything.
Yeah, definitely.
Because I did work on it for a while, a few weeks ago, but then I just never ended up following through, which was unfortunate. But
yeah, okay, so you're saying it might be possible. Then perhaps, Nick, what we want to do is let's give the Board of Selectmen a heads up tonight Do you have any of the contact information? I remember sending something, but I'm not sure I gave you the.
I think you sent like a person's name or maybe their position, but I'm not entirely sure. I don't think I have that contact information, but I'm sure I could find it on like the town website.
Yeah, so I'll give you Mark Purple's email and the and Lori Esposito. I don't know if she's the executive assistant for the board, but I don't know if she's still there because I saw an opening. I'm not sure. But yeah, I'll give you the contact information if you want to reach out to them, because I did give them a heads up it was coming. And they were holding a slot for trails either this next time or the time after. And if they were holding it for us, we can probably punt ours until the until the 1st to give you a spot if we need to. So we can kind of rearrange that a little bit. So we'll ask if you could reach out to them and ask Mr. Purple if there's an opportunity to present to the board. And you could probably share, there's, you know, a bit of a time sensitivity given where we are in the year, and we want to get before the colder weather.
Kat, I know Lisa was also holding a small slot for the scholarship committee that we're going to be going to October. So that would be another like 5-10 minute slot that's available.
Oh, wonderful. Okay, great. I think maybe we should email in concert. So you can email your request and I'll email. Do you want me to email on your behalf, Isabel, and just say I spoke with Isabel Murphy? Or
you know what? I'm going to get back to Lisa and just let her know
Perfect.
that we're not taking that slot, and then that way it'll fall into place.
Okay, so and I'll reference that, you know, if we need to move, then we can move to the first two, and that might give you just enough space for them to say yes. Great. Okay. So any other questions from the board, from the committee? No. Okay.
We do thank you, Nick.
Yeah,
Great
we were
project.
very excited, Nick. So let's see if you want to send me something tonight. I'm going to be working late, so I can take a look at it, and if that's helpful. If not, that's fine. We can, you know, obviously, if you needed to make some small tweaks to it before the real presentation, I think that's if you, for example, if you sent in a draft and then you slightly tweaked it, you would still want to send in the final at the end. But I think small tweaks probably work out okay, as long as you have a significant placeholder.
Okay.
Yeah, great. Okay, so we'll be in touch after, and thank you very much.
Thank you.
Great.
Yeah.
Thanks, Nick.
Thanks, Nick.
Okay. Wonderful. Well, that's a great project. I'm very excited about moving forward with that. Okay, so back to the charter discussion. Tim, did you have so is it for Bella, was that enough of an introduction to understand what we were discussing when you popped in?
Yeah, it was.
Okay, great. So Tim, did you have, other than I'll circulate your draft, we were talking about the very specifics about remind me, it was the resident being a resident and a voter, and you had indicated that the non-voting member did not have to be a resident.
It does not have to be a
I mean,
voter,
did
but
not
does have to be a
a-
resident.
Did not
So
have to be
normally-
a registered voter.
Right. So normally we want registered voters because you're making, you know, decisions that feed into budgets and affect policy in the town.
Okay.
You know, if people want, I can share my screen. I have the draft. It's only a couple of pages.
Sure. Thank you.
If someone will allow me, I'll do that.
Oh, do I have to give you permission to do something? I have to promote you.
I'm used to being demoted, so.
All right, I tried. Oh, he's rejoining.
So Tim, what type of engineer are you?
I'm having a little weird thing. He's stuck in being promoted, and I can't move that from the.
There you go.
Oh, there you are.
There you go.
I think I'm there. Now you have to enable screen sharing for me.
Step process.
I used to design computers for a living, but it doesn't mean I like them.
Do I have to make you a co-host to do that, I guess? Because I don't have share screen. So I'm going to make you a co-host. Just don't
That's
do
fine.
anything, don't do anything wild.
Oh, you know what? Okay, it says host disabled participant screen sharing.
That's fine. Let's see.
There we go.
Whoops. Is that not what I wanted to share? Looks
Yeah,
like it's
it's
not what I wanted to share. Give me a
Article
second.
Untitled Trails Committee.
Let me try this again.
I saw that password.
No, it was just your agenda if you really want to know. Oh, come on.
Isn't that it?
Nope,
The
that looks
purpose?
good to us.
We see it.
Yep.
Yeah.
Article X Southborough Trails Committee 9.35 purpose. Is the
Oh,
purpose.
okay. So you folks are still there. So basically what happens when you create a bylaw is you have to present an article to town meeting, and that shows up in the warrant in a form like this. And so there's a required preamble that basically says, will the town meeting consider doing the following? And what we would do here is add to the bylaws, and I've picked the appropriate, chapter and place, to insert it.
Nice, thank you.
So then I have a purpose. And if people want to interrupt, feel free. But as far as my take was that your purpose was that, resource use trails, which are, the walking, biking, hiking, running, and such, are important. They're an important asset of the town. They contribute to the quality of life, and it requires coordination among a lot of public and private entities. So we need a committee. And
one point is not to get into nit, but the bicycling would be a problem because most of our trails are in watershed and on DCR property, and because it's in watershed, they don't allow bicycling. Now, we all love bicycles, and it's not we would like to be able to have bicycling, but we can't. So I think we would want to take.
well, I can remove it, or we can leave it here, because one of the things about a bylaw is that once it's there, it's there. So if in the future you were able to have a trail that included bicycling, great. I mean, I'm inclined to be expansive.
No, I like expansive. I'm just, yeah, I think that would work because we're still trying to see if they'll allow it on the access.
Actually,
roads.
as long as one trail has the right to have a bicycle, then you keep it in.
Oh, okay, then the town forest can have bikes.
Yes,
No
exactly.
no one really knows that.
Okay.
But me.
So then, we talk, the legal nonsense basically says there shall be a committee, and indeed there shall be. And then we have to pick, how many people, whether it's 5, which is your current authorized size, or 7 is a question. Given the quorum change, my recommendation would be to go towards 7 and just not fill the seats if you can't find people, but that's worth some discussion. And then each voting member has to be a registered voter and not a town officer or employee, which means you don't want, the DPW superintendent or the town administrator or the tree warden or anyone to be a voting member. And then the magic words that the quorum is the majority of the members serving. And, the in no case less than 3 is to make sure, you don't have a committee of, that's so small that bad things happen.
Mm-hmm.
And then for your additional non-voting members, we just say that the selectmen, and I put in consultation with the committee so that you have influence over, who shows up, can appoint additional members. I'm not sure you want to limit. I mean, because if a 4th guy shows up or a 5th guy shows up and you can use them, why not?
It's a great idea. I was like, well, why, why just have 2 if multiples would work? So I agree. But I
So,
think we don't want to go, we can't have 20. I mean, that would be
Yeah,
silly.
but I mean, you would say no when they appointed the 21st or the 17th, or, whenever it felt unwieldy to you. Again, I agree with one of the comments that Chelsea made at the Board of Selectmen, where, she said you want to arrange your structure for the long term, not based on the people who are currently serving or currently, in your available pool.
Yep.
And so that's what I tried to do in putting this together. And then there's the question of, how long terms should be. My stab was 2-year terms. You're currently 1-year terms. And I think you want more commitment and you want to have more continuity. So I think 2 is sort of the minimum. 3 is a common number. 5 is probably too much commitment for this kind of committee.
Yeah.
So 2 or 3 is sort of my stab, but again, it's your committee. I'm just trying to give you a place to, or a thing to argue with.
Can I ask a quick question of Bella?
Anytime.
As a new committee member, you were appointed for 1 year. How does 2 years sound to you? Would that have been a deterrent for you, or a positive? Like, do you have any thoughts on?
I was actually just thinking about that when you mentioned my name. I'm not entirely sure, because I feel like the 1 year is a good starting point, especially for people that are new to committees, but 2 for people who like have already been like in committees and kind of know what they're getting themselves into would be better for some people. So I feel like, I don't know if there could be an option for 1 or 2 years, depending on what the appointed person would prefer. I don't know if that's something that they could choose ultimately, but I feel like that would be good.
Yeah, you wouldn't normally want to do that, but I mean, you always have the option of resigning.
Yeah.
Right. And if you resign because you find that it's too much, then there's an unexpired term, and that we deal with in a couple of sentences.
Okay, yeah, in that case, then I think the 2-year term would be perfectly fine.
Because generally, there are 2 sort of reasons for going longer than a year. One is you would like some commitment from the people who volunteer, but the other is continuity, because if the whole committee turns over every year, which is sort of the worst case if you don't have any terms longer than a year, then you lose institutional knowledge and you lose forward progress in projects and stuff. So if you have 2 and half expire 1 year and half expire the other year, then you're pretty much guaranteed that, absent unusual events, that you have a sense of continuity.
So Tim, how do you, right now, we're all co-term at exactly the same start and end. And I totally agree with your statements. How do we change that in the bylaw? How do we stagger the members?
Well, the next sentence says, the initial appointment shall be divided among 1 and 2 year terms so as to establish overlapping terms.
Okay.
And that's normally how it's done. So that half of you would get a 1 year term and half of you would get a 2 year term. And after that, all the terms would be 2 years.
Okay.
Nice thinking.
So that's normally how you
stagger
set
it.
these things up.
Okay.
Like I say, I've done this before, but
obviously,
please ask all the questions, because I don't want to make assumptions.
Yeah.
And the idea here is to help you along, not to dictate and not to get things too confused.
Appreciate it.
Okay, so the next thing I just added is, as we were talking, because I forgot it in the first round, is the one that basically says, if someone goes away, and this is the language I used in the MTC, basically says, if you tell the Board of Selectmen that someone hasn't done their job or has failed without good reason to attend at least 3/4 of meetings in a 6-month period, the Board of Selectmen has to give notice, hold a hearing, and figure out whether that person stays on the committee. By the way, Kat, that means you don't hold the hearing. The conflict isn't with you. The conflict is, at the level of the Board of Selectmen. And like I say, it's unlikely to happen if you do the right things in the first place.
Yeah.
Is that an automatic thing? Hold on, Tim. Is that an automatic thing, or does Kat, being the chairwoman, has to let the Board of Selectmen know that we do have a member that is not performing?
Someone has to let the Board of Selectmen know, and it would normally be the chair. Some of it is automatic. I mean, someone who leaves town or resigns or dies, they're not a member. And you don't have to take any particular action. They're just gone. But, for the case of, someone who's unable to discharge their duties or chooses not to, you have to give them a chance to explain themselves.
No, that's fair. That was just a quick question.
No. Keep interrupting me. That's fine. So then a little bit about how to organize. And most committees have a chairman and a secretary. And I note that Kat is, acting as
Nope.
both.
Nope, Sati is our secretary. He drafts the minutes every month.
Okay. Well, I mean, I think you should have one in the bylaw. And, if someone's particularly energetic and wants to take on the secretary's role, that's fine too, informally.
Does it have to be, and this is just a very, it's a nit. Does it have to be called secretary, or can it be called clerk and mean the same thing? Or is secretary a defined term by the state, and in these bylaws, they all need to be the same?
The Board of Health uses clerk. Everyone else uses secretary. I don't really care.
So Kat, in Shopsy, we have Kate Battles is the person that writes the minutes. Sometimes she attends and sometimes she writes the minutes based off of the recording. I mean, nowadays we do have that benefit, and she does a great job and stuff like that. So I think it's okay to put it in there. Sati, I don't want to give up your job. If you enjoy doing it, of course, always do it.
Yeah, he's
It's
doing
just
great.
that, what happens if he doesn't want to do it anymore? Then we have a mechanism.
Well, they're sort of two different functions. So what Kate does is she's the recording secretary. So she drafts the minutes and stuff, but a committee member is responsible as part of, their duties to the committee to make sure that she turns them in, that they get on the agenda, to get voted, and that they get turned into the town clerk's office to be recorded.
Right.
So the secretary doesn't necessarily mean that you take the minutes yourself. It just means you're responsible for making sure that it happens.
Okay.
And if you take the minutes yourself, well, that's great too. Okay.
Yeah,
Yep.
this next statement, the administrative support for the committee, I don't think that's going to fly.
Well, I made it fly for the MTC.
Wait, I think the Trails Committee is going to be seen as differently than the MTC.
Well, the reason for putting it there is to make sure that since you're going to have a budget, when you need to buy things, when you need to get things from other department heads, that you have a path to get there. And, the town administrator can delegate that, normally does. But you need to have a contact, in the town staff. Where you
that
can
would
go.
be, for example, Tim. I mean, he's our department head, for example. So he's not really in our administrative staff. He's the guy, he's the person, he's our primary contact that does all of this for.
But that has been the case because you've been under his budget. And the next case, you're going to have your next paragraph, you're going to have your own budget.
Well, you speak so positively, confidently.
Oh,
I am
we will-
positive. And I am positive that we can get the support from the Board of Selectmen if we present this to them. Like I say, I've done this before. And, you had a lot more support at the meeting the other day than I had going into some of these.
Gotcha.
So, I don't think anything here is unreasonable.
Yeah.
But, if we get pushback,
We know where to cut.
we can always do things. One of the conversations I had when I was doing the MTC issue, which was by far the most complicated committee the town has ever had. There was discussion I had with one of the members who said, don't even try that because it'll never fly. And I said, well, your grasp will never exceed your reach. You've got to try.
Yeah, no.
And we tried and we got
Yeah.
what he thought we couldn't get. So
Yeah.
I
And we
think,
are
you know,
going
think of-
after funding, but it was a different, yeah. So,
yeah,
so
but I mean, think of it as an opening point for negotiation and what you'd like to have in an ideal world.
right.
And if there's a reason to fight for it, we'll fight for it. And then if there's a reason to say, well, this is not a hill worth dying on, then we say, well, okay, how far back do we have to step to get you what you need to be effective?
Nope, it's great. Thank you.
So funding, it just says you have a budget for consultants and whatever other expenses, and you feed it into the normal budget process. And to spend money, the committee has to have a majority vote.
Mhm.
And, it's subject to the usual town policies, for state procurement and all that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
That's identical language to what's already been passed in 2 other committees. So you don't have to sweat on that one.
Nice.
Functions. I just say that the duty of the committee is to enhance, extend, monitor, and maintain the trails within the town, exclusive of the Breakneck Hill Conservation Land, because that's excluded in your current charter, and to work to incorporate and or extend those trails into regional trail networks whenever possible. That was my take at what I think your charge is. And if you think that's wrong, scream at me in a minute.
Yep.
We want to say that the committee shall be responsible for all trail monitoring and maintenance obligations under any licensing agreements to which the town is or becomes a party. Your current charter is much more specific, but who knows what else will come. We want to make sure that everything is covered. We don't have to go amend this.
Yep.
May I ask a question at this point?
Anytime.
Okay. If it says that we're responsible for all trail maintenance, does that then put us in an uncomfortable position when trees are down and people start emailing us and say it's our responsibility to fix it?
You're responsible for any obligations under a licensing agreement. So if you have a licensing agreement, with DCR, for example,
Right.
that says, the town is responsible, then you're
Right.
responsible for seeing that it's done. But like the recording secretary, you may turn around and call the tree warden and say, we need you to take this down. Or it may be, when we look at it, we say you need to have a budget for tree removal should it happen.
In the past, we've worked with DPW and they've been agreeable to help us take down trees that needed to.
But I'm not trying to set the details of a budget here. I'm trying to outline, what the responsibilities are.
Yeah.
And then, when budget time comes around, there may be a negotiation, say at advisory, where we say, well, DPW used to spend, 0.1% of its tree budget on trails trees. So let's move that into a specific line item here. Or we say, well, no, it makes much more sense since DPW gets a big contract for this every year to leave it there. Your job is only going to be to tell them and they need to remember that you're there.
Yeah.
My take is it's probably going to be number 2, but
Yeah.
I don't want to put that in a bylaw.
I guess where I'm coming from is we already have some residents who tend to feel that it is our responsibility to make sure that the grass is cut within 1 inch. And as volunteers, I'm a little bit concerned that if we put that in there, we might be held to a different level of responsibility.
Fair point. But all this says, and I believe that this is consistent with what your current charter is if the town has an agreement has an obligation under a license to do the maintenance, then you don't want DPW to be responsible for it. You don't want recreation to be responsible for it. You're responsible for overseeing the trail. Now, in terms of getting bodies to do the work, that's a different question, right? Whether you get those bodies from DPW or from the volunteers, we haven't gotten to yet. Again, that's an implementation question.
One follow-up question on that. So if the trails committee is responsible for,
You're breaking up, Sati.
if we are responsible for any maintenance, and if there is some injury because of the non-maintenance, are we liable for that if that changes?
No, that's a completely
whatever
different
that
thing.
is determined in the license agreement that the town has, which you may have had a hand in putting in place or not. But all those kinds of agreements are reviewed by town council, and the town maintains insurance for these kinds of things. And,
And
there's no personal liability here.
Right. And I just checked with the town council, Sati, and we can talk about this next meeting about the liability, just to ensure that our waiver, our current and existing waiver, is in good shape for the liability. And if someone were to get hurt when we're working with Boy Scouts and stuff. So I got some clarification that I'll share with the committee on that from the town council that I think will help answer some of your questions on that.
But this doesn't create anything that your current charter doesn't already reference with some specific license agreements.
Hey, Tim, question on the functions, and this is a hypothetical. Say 5 years down the road, someone invents this really cool trail maintenance machine. And we put it in our budget, the town buys it, and then we either hire somebody to do it or we hire the DPW to do it. Would all that scenario fit into the functions? We are now buying equipment to maintain the trails. Who does it is a question of who wants to take that contract.
This doesn't preclude that. As far as
Okay.
I can tell, it just says that they'll be maintained. I mean, you can do it with a scythe.
Yeah.
You can do it with grass clippers, or you
don't
can
like
do it
to,
with a
but-
magic remote controlled drone.
When did?
Okay, I just want to make sure we're not limited to
Mm,
the same way we've been doing things with, volunteers and stuff.
I don't
If a
think so.
better- A better way to maintaining this becomes available.
It
it
just says
doesn't
you maintain
exclude
it. It doesn't say how.
How?
Okay, good. I like vague. I live in the gray area.
Well, I've spent more. I'm not an attorney, but I've spent more of my life dealing with them than I care to admit. And so I've learned how to be as specific as necessary and hopefully no more so.
Good.
Okay, so the third paragraph just says that, you coordinate and work with anybody, public or private, that owns or is otherwise responsible for trails within the town. That's again a generalization of your current brief charge. And then for volunteers, the current charge says that you coordinate volunteers. So I said that you may solicit and enlist volunteers to, under the supervision and direction of the committee, so they can't go off on their own, assist the committee with work on the trails, including clearing, building, mowing, monitoring, and other maintenance tasks. One of my questions is that the right list?
Mhm.
And the idea here, and then those volunteers are not municipal employees and have to execute a waiver of liability with respect to their participation in a forum approved by town council.
Yep.
And the point here is to keep them from being entangled in the open meeting conflict of interest laws and to make it clear that you folks are in charge.
Great.
So this gives you the ability to get volunteers, to supervise the volunteers, to have the hands to do the work, but without having them be caught up in the same net that you folks are.
Tim, can I ask yet another question here?
Of course.
Okay,
Go.
so one of the things that we have done is that we have areas within the trail that people have sort of taken responsibility for.
Mhm.
And they are not committee members.
Mhm.
So does this language cover them, or would we need to add something else in there?
The idea, as far as I can tell, those people would be volunteers and they work under the supervision and direction of the committee.
Okay, so even if we're not there on site with them.
Well, how you supervise and direct them is up to you. Right? If you say, gosh, I trust you and if you screw up and I'm not there, I'm still taking responsibility, then that's fine. If you say, before you squeeze the clippers one time, you need to, get a written note from your mother and have it checked by me, well, that's another way of managing things. It's up to you. I don't think you need to physically be there. But if I were you, I would say to such a volunteer, what's your plan for maintaining this? Please, tell me what your plan is. You sign off on the plan, and then they're expected to execute to that plan.
Okay, the
Right.
reason I ask that is that we have some people who are wonderful about clearing a small path. We
Mhm.
have other people that feel that part of maintenance of the trail is clear cutting down to the water, which is totally against DCR.
Right. So again, what I would do in your shoes is when I enlisted those volunteers and assigned them responsibility for that area, I'd say, let's develop together a plan for what you're going to do in terms of maintenance for this. Right. And, you sign it, they sign it. And once in a while you inspect and make sure that, they're, doing what the plan says.
Yep.
And that seems to me like a reasonable balance for, how I might do things if I were a trails guy, which I'm not.
Okay. This looks good, Tim. Thank you.
So, right, so that takes care of that paragraph. The next one says that you can all by yourself become a member of organizations that promote or develop trails without going to anyone else in the town. Just go do it. But that you can't, but except for stuff that's in your budget, which would be dues and expenses related to membership, you can't create a liability for the town without going to the Board of Selectmen. So, some memberships, have a whole bunch of terms and conditions that would, drag the town into something. And this is making sure that that doesn't happen. But basically, if you want to become the, member of bicycle trail promoters or hiking trail clearers or whatever, organizations you have, you shouldn't have to say, "Mommy, may I," to the selectman or to the town administrator to sign up.
Right.
And then we have the committee shall work with.
Actually, Tim, one question would be, if someone on the committee goes off and does join one of these committees, they shouldn't identify themselves as a member of Southborough's committee, should they?
They may.
They may.
There are two different ways to do that. I mean, you could say as an individual, you're going to become a member of the Young Hikers. That's to pick an arbitrary thing. And, as long as you say, I'm doing this as an individual and it's an individual membership, just like anyone else, you can become a member. But it might be that the Trails Committee wants to join an organization in order to advocate for regional trails, for example. That might have, a membership fee or not, but then you represent the town of Southborough in terms of saying what our position is for, do you want to invest in, or would you, or do you think it would be a good idea to have a peninsula trail, or a multi-boroughs loop trail, or something where you get involved with other people. And I want to make sure that you have the authority as a committee to vote to say, yes, let's take out a membership so that we can speak for the town at that, at those committee meetings.
Okay, I think you answered my question, which is that as an individual committee member, you can't put yourself forward as representing the Southborough Trails Committee unless the Southborough Trails Committee has voted on that.
That's correct.
Okay.
So then we have you working with other public and private entities, including recreation, council on aging, and schools to publicize, encourage use of, and develop programs for the trails. And what I'm trying to do is to make your education and outreach mission explicit, and implicitly to tell those other groups that they're expected to work with you.
Yep.
If that's not the right list,
We can work on it.
we can work on that.
Thank you. Yeah.
And then, going down your list of pain points, the committee may, on behalf of the town, solicit and or accept donations of equipment and or services necessary for its duties. So none of this nonsense about you're constrained to accepting baked goods according to the selectmen's policy. If you want to get shovels, or you want to get measuring tapes, or someone volunteers to mow a trail, you can solicit and get donations and manage them.
Tim, off that would just remind me of something. We don't have the ability to have someone just give us cash contributions, right?
We do. If it has to be voted on by the board, just as you see sometimes people will donate to the Youth and Family Services. So the donation goes through the Board of Selectmen. They vote to give it to Youth and Family Services. Am I incorrect in saying any of that, Tim?
That's correct. What happens currently with most donations, every donation I can think of, except for the Friends, which are independent entities, the check might be made out, to town of Southborough, might be delivered to you, and then the Board of Selectmen get a letter and they vote to, accept the money.
Yeah.
We could allow you to accept money, but that creates a whole bunch of things you don't want.
No, I
Um,
think we're comfortable having it go through the board, and the board will probably be really comfortable.
Yeah,
with that
that's
too.
fine. It's one of the things where, and I'm just thinking of, some of our trails are next to, it used to be Genzyme, Santa Fe now.
Sanofi, yeah, yeah.
What happens if they want to contribute like to the trails because it's right next to their employees, they can access and stuff? Maybe they want to make a contribution.
So what you would do is you would ask them to write a letter with their check that says, enclosed is a check for $1,506,713.54, payable to the town of Southborough for use in improving the town's trails. That would then be forwarded to the Board of Selectmen, who'd accept the donation, and you would like for it to be applied to your budget.
Great.
But
All
that's,
right, so once this comes through,
you
Kat,
could do that
so
today.
well, I guess we haven't really did a lot of that today. I'm just
But you
saying, I'm
can.
just
I mean,
thinking.
People do it with the ambulance fund all the time. Someone
We're an
goes,
ad hoc. Can you do it to an ad hoc
Yes.
committee? Okay.
money to the town is money to the town. We don't turn it away.
No, nobody should turn around free money.
The only trick here is making sure that, it then, can be expended under your direction.
Right.
Correct.
And maybe I should add some language for that. Let me think about that one.
Okay.
However,
Um,
Tim, it sounds like the Board of Selectmen could take that $1,700,000 check and say, we're going to put that somewhere else rather than trails. It's just too much money for trails.
Well, that's why the letter from the donor should specify the allowed use. That puts a restriction on it.
Okay.
That's why, for example, when there are donations to the ambulance fund, someone says, please accept this, this donation, for the ambulance fund, because we were treated especially nicely when we had our heart attack, or, whatever else motivates people.
Is that a
Okay.
general rule for any donations? If you put a specifically what you want it to be for, they have to spend it explicitly for that.
That's
In
generally
general.
true. So let's see, we're almost at the end here. Then the committee may develop applications for grants or interentity agreements in furtherance of its duties, and recommend that the Board of Selectmen execute them on behalf of the town. And the selectmen can delegate that to the town administrator, and probably will. The reason for doing it this way is that, when you do something with DCR, you draft it, you negotiate it, but normally a volunteer committee wouldn't have the authority to obligate the town.
Right.
The Board of Selectmen is the chief executive,
Yep.
and that's the way it would normally go. If it's been different for you folks in the past, then
No, that's how it works. They sign the agreements. And-
okay, but this at least makes it explicit that you can go out on your own, bring the things in and say, here's an opportunity, please sign.
Get it.
And finally, you get to report on status and progress to Board of Selectmen and town meeting.
Mhm.
So this was my stab at expanding your current, really brief charge into something that kind of feels workable.
Yeah.
Like I
Thank
say,
you.
I'm more than happy to, help to refine it or change it,
Yes, thank you.
And-
Tim.
get it through.
Tim, does this have to go to any approval, at the state level or whatever?
No, well, yes. So
We have both answers. Okay.
no, the answer, well, I'll talk about the process. So you would like for this to be a article that is sponsored by the Board of Selectmen, because typically they go through more easily, but it could be sponsored by you, the Trails Committee. Based on the conversations at the last Board of Selectmen's meeting, I think they'd be happy to be the sponsor.
Yeah.
And so we'll do it that way.
Yeah.
Town meeting then has to vote this. This is only a majority vote. And then once town meeting has approved it, then it, along with everything else of a similar nature voted by that town meeting, goes to the Attorney General's office for review. The Attorney General's office will look to see if it violates the state constitution, conflicts with state law, conflicts with the US Constitution. None of this does. And so about 90 days later, roughly this time of year, they'll say, okay, and it then takes effect. Now, before town meeting, you would expect it to be reviewed by the Board of Selectmen because they're sponsoring it and you're currently a creature of the Board of Selectmen.
Yeah.
Advisory Committee would also look at it because they look at every warrant article that goes before town meeting. There's nothing here that should raise a red flag for them. And I would encourage you to shop it around to people like the Recreation Commission so that you can have their support, when it goes before others for review.
Yeah,
I
and
think
Tim's
this would be
aware.
good for recreation because it means that you're no longer leeching off of their budget.
Yeah,
Yeah.
so Tim is aware, I made him aware that we were going to have this conversation, so I'll keep him in the loop and ask him for his guidance on how he wants to incorporate the Recreation Commission. I think that's really important because they've been very supportive of trails, so we want to make sure we're all
Yeah,
doing
and
this-
I don't think this should diminish the support. I think this
No.
this should make them happy in the sense that your budget requests will stand on their own. And there's a clear delineation, and you're in the same boat of trying to make recreation happen.
Yeah.
You're offloading the trails problem from them.
Hey, there's no problem here.
The trails opportunity, the trails challenge,
Thank you. We're-
whatever politically correct word you want to use, Kat.
Okay. So this looks great. So is there anything else that I just want to be sensitive to time because we have a few items and I'm not rushing you, Tim. This has been incredible. You advanced the ball more than I had ever imagined the ball advancing this early in the game. So thank you. Thank you very much.
Sure. So there are questions you see in the comments field.
Yes.
If people have comments, they're welcome to send email to me or to me through Kat. And I'll try and incorporate them, or if there's conflict, you'll have to bring it back to another one of your meetings. And then my other usual practice when shopping this around is I typically put together a little PowerPoint presentation that says, forget the legal language, here's what we're really doing.
Right.
So Tim, you anticipate that this would become a warrant for spring all town meeting?
Right.
Yes.
Okay.
I don't see pushing it into the fall town meeting. I don't think it's urgent.
No. Yeah, I would rather not because there's bandwidth issues on a lot of we're doing a lot of different other things. So I would prefer if the committee were in support of spring that there's no rush on this. I would like the board to vote on the change of the ad hoc to the non-voting members as the associate members on a sooner side, like in October, if we can get them to agree to that. And then this would be the more permanent change. So that would be the kind of the chain of events. So back to your point, Tim, if you could take some time in the next couple of days, review this and send me your comments, just one person, so we're not violating open meeting law. I'll compile them into one document for you, Tim, and then send that off to you.
Okay.
Okay. And so I'll get that off to you by say early next week and give this committee the rest of the week to get me comments. So if everybody can get me comments by say Sunday, does that work for everybody? Okay.
It should.
Okay. And so there's one more thing I'll tell you, Kat. I sent a note to Lisa, forgiving her for calling me out at the Board of Selectmen meeting and providing some of the same comments I gave here. I sent you a copy of that just so you know. There's no surprise.
Copy of this? Yes.
No, a copy of the note I sent Lisa.
Oh, when did you do that?
I did that this afternoon.
Oh, okay. So
because I was away when the Board of Selectmen meeting happened.
Okay, got it. Okay, wonderful.
So I hope it's helpful. And
this is extremely helpful, Tim. I mean, it was like it fell out of the sky like this beautiful gift. So thank you. You gifted us.
Well, don't worry. I sent a bill.
You send a bill? Okay. We'll see how we pay with that with no budget.
Well, I'll tell you how you'll do it. When I start fighting for sidewalks again, I'll expect your support.
Oh, we love sidewalks. Sure.
I think the 1.7 million figure was maybe indicative.
Yeah. Okay. Well, thank you again, Tim.
Sure.
Anything else on that, just let us know. And we'll circle back at the next meeting and talk further about the details, but we'll send it to you early next week.
Okay, I'll try and attend as long as I don't have a conflict.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you, Tim. This is good.
Okay, guys. So onward, we're gonna move at a pretty good clip. So please raise your hand if I speak too fast. And let's see how fast we can get through the rest of it. But we have a lot of good stuff going on, so it's kind of an exciting time. Committee budget, we're going to punt that until next time because we kind of just a little bit talked about it. So I think it's we can address that at our next meeting. Heritage Day, as I understand it from Tim at Recreation, they're still moving forward with Heritage Day. So do we have the committee support? And we should probably vote on that if someone wants to make a motion that we move forward with having a table at Heritage Day and then doing our prep between now and then. And Heritage Day is Monday of Columbus Day weekend. So not everybody will be available, I understand, but as many as we can have at our table to meet and greet our residents and talk trails, it's helpful. So what do you guys think? And talk COVID too. Are you comfortable? I mean, that kind of thing.
See, I might be away that weekend, so that'll be the only thing. I don't know. I could be here, but right now we're planning to be away that weekend, so I will not be available.
And that's okay. If you don't mind us going forward, you'll be there in great spirit, and we'll have a big picture of you on a popsicle stick.
I'll be there.
You could be there.
I have that on hold for a client. I'll know better before the end of this week.
Okay.
I think that's a great idea, but I unfortunately will be away that week.
Okay, got it. All right, so Sati and I could man the table potentially. And you don't have to be there all day, Sati. We can split it up, and I'm happy to be there. Is this something we want to do this year? Do we feel like it's important? It may help us with the grant. We might be able to make some town connections with other boards and have conversations that we haven't had yet or something. And, it can coincide with, so a couple of things on the agenda we do. So we have confirmation from Andy Leahy. He confirmed today that he can do that Saturday, the 25th.
Guided hike.
At 1 o'clock.
Okay.
Pardon?
Guided hike.
Yeah, guided
okay.
Yeah. So he can do it at 1 o'clock. Now his shift doesn't start until 1. So, sometimes it's ideal to have a 9 a.m., but it's fall, it's before hunting season. It's 1. Some will come, some won't. That's just the way it will work. Right. So what do you guys think? Is that a good thing?
Good thing.
Wonderful.
That's 25th or 26th?
The 25th, the Saturday at 1 p.m.
Okay.
Good thing.
Good thing. Thanks. Okay. So what that means is we're going to drop that release tomorrow. So tonight I'm going to quickly draft an Eventbrite, and I think we should have registrations. It's good to know how many we have. Has anyone heard of any outdoor limitations on group sizes like we've had to deal with in the past? I haven't heard anything. I haven't done my research, but I've not really been hearing updates on that. Anybody else?
No, look at Gillette Stadium on Sunday.
All right.
65,000.
Okay, we're looking at about 100 to.
Yeah, so I don't think there's any restrictions for outdoor activities.
Okay, good. So yeah, so that would be great. So I'll get that ready, and I'm kind of interested. So there's a twist here. So you guys saw the email post or some communication about the DCR listening session. Maybe you either got an email trail alert or on Facebook. Or if you didn't, now you know that to go and look. So that's great news, right? That's the news we've been waiting to hear. This listening session, that was the 1,600 signatures. That's what it was all about. All those letters of support, what this is about, getting DCR to move forward with this. So this is great. So that listening session is next Wednesday, the 22nd at 6 p.m. If you can make it, great. I'm going to be there. So if anyone else can be there, wonderful. They're going to talk about the whole process about updating the plan and the timeline. Now, this isn't about Southborough, and this isn't about the Trails Committee. but we're going to make it about the Trails Committee when we go to Q&A, because that's how we get things done. Okay. No, so we'll learn a lot more about the process than is necessarily applicable to us, but it will be applicable to us in that we need this plan in place to apply for the grant. So hopefully their timeline will then enlighten us to know whether we're going to get that plan executed before the grant cycle, or do we have to start asking the Mass Trails Grant, if our plan is mostly underway and in draft form, can we still apply for a grant? Because that's going to be a yes, no, make it or break it type of question. And so this will be a very informative session. So if anyone can attend, that would be great to see you there. So what I was thinking is, like, we're advertising the public listening session. We're going to have a guided hike at the end of the week on the parcel of land that the listening session is going to be. So there's kind of a interrelationship here that we might be able to promote the listening session and then the guided hike, right? So we're really kind of a twofer type thing. And I like the history angle. I think we're going to get a different type of attendee, someone who's interested in understanding what's behind that gate and the history of, of Southborough. And even though we've done this before a few years back, I never get tired of hearing about it. So, and I think it's only going to help us, some of the new committee members like Bella, if you're able to attend on the 25th, that would be great. I understand you work, so that might be a little tricky, but it's always good stuff. And if Will and Tony, if you're available, that will be a fun thing to attend.
Could you send information on attending other than Facebook? I don't Facebook.
Of course. And so I'm glad you brought that up, Will. I wanted to take a minute and find out what sources how do you get information on town? Like, if for those who aren't on Facebook, we want to make sure we're reaching that audience. So what do you use to get information about town happenings?
I don't have Facebook. I go to the town website.
You do?
I
Okay.
go to the town website as well.
Do you guys, have you signed up for e-alerts and get announcements via email ever?
Yeah.
No, I didn't.
You don't? And Will, do you?
Yes.
Okay, so Sati, you can sign up for e-alerts. And if you choose Trails or any number of the other committees that you might be interested in, every time there's a news and announcement, you'll get an email.
Okay.
It's really handy. Tony, do you do any of that? And are you on Facebook, if you don't mind sharing your social media habits?
I do use Facebook some, and I follow what's on My Southborough.
Okay, yep.
So I find that to be helpful, but I will certainly sign up for those alerts.
Yeah, they're
On
fun.
the town website.
Yeah, you'll get announcements like when we're doing, I think you get, if we're posting an agenda or a minute, you'll get those too. And I think you might be able to choose the level of activity you receive. Maybe you choose, I want agendas or I don't, or I want minutes or I don't. I think there's some level of detail.
Hey,
Yes.
Kat, that was the one, that was through that mechanism with the listening session, right? 'Cause I got an email.
You got an email this morning. Yes, that's the
Yes.
alert. And My Southborough reached out to me to clarify about the public listening session. So stay tuned. She's going to probably be writing an article about that, which was nice free advertising or free publicity. Yep. So great. So,
There's no chance of running afoul of the open meeting law here, is there?
Why?
help me understand. What have we done?
That's not a meeting, no.
Where?
I
At
mean,
public listening session, Will?
Yes.
Oh,
You have
yeah.
your camera on, Bill.
Yeah, we think you're sleeping. So that's a great question, Will. When we all show up at a meeting like that, we can be there, but we can't talk to each other. Well, it's going to be virtual anyway. We can't talk to each other about what's going on, right? So say, for example, the stewardship committee, we all showed up at the stewardship committee for a topic that's a joint topic. We can be there. If we're all there, we can't talk to each other about, and most of the time what they recommend is that you post a dual meeting, that Trails is meeting at the same time. We did that once with another committee. I forget if historical or something. We had a joint meeting to avoid that. So this public listening session will all be in the audience. So we're not going to be talking to each other. And it won't be, it can't break public meeting.
Yeah, we're
You
not
can post a
deliberating,
meeting,
we're
it's
not
cheap.
discussing.
What was that?
You can post a meeting. It's cheap to post a meeting and just say either no quorum or nothing happened.
But why would we need to? Like, we're all attending something DCR is hosting and it's virtual. Like,
it's
if
just-
it were
it's a-
in person, maybe I would be more on board about posting it. Do you think though we have to with a virtual?
I don't think you
environment?
have to, but it does give you the option of speaking up in the meeting and having, someone else in the meeting contradict you or provide some, additional input.
Do you think we should then? I never even considered that. Oh, well,
It's,
Not a very controversial committee.
well, maybe we should just for some publicity,
a lot of committees just do it, and that way they don't feel constrained
all
when
right,
they're, in the audience with something else.
okay.
But
Thank you.
it's
Yeah.
your call.
Hmm.
Just while I'm talking, by the way, I sent Kat an update of the draft bylaw article.
Thank you. You're so efficient. Thank you.
I charge extra for efficiency.
Oh my, that bill's gonna be really big.
Hmm.
Okay, so I'll post a public meeting and then we can just, we'll be on the safe side. Thanks for keeping us on the safe side, because I like that side. Okay, so anything else, any other questions about that or the guided hike? I think, the other thing about the guided hike, so this is the next topic on the agenda, agenda number 9, St. Mark's. So we were, an individual reached out to us. I'm going to forget her name. Her name is Kathleen Rusinos, and she's a teacher at St. Mark's. And she reached out because she's teaching a class on outdoor appreciation. And she's got a group of students that she wants to give back to the community. So we've been playing phone tag for a few days and not able to connect. But she talked about maybe either volunteering or participating in an event. So I was thinking it might be interesting for this, her class and her students to participate in the guided hike if they wanted to. That might be a great opportunity for them to join us. And as far as trail maintenance, I'm not exactly sure if we really have a lot of trail maintenance because we just went through another big push about a month ago. But she said maybe we could establish an ongoing partnership. Out of the woodwork they come this year. So happy, because what did we hear from Verity Opportunities, Tom? I invited him. I was like, it'd be great if we could establish an ongoing trail maintenance opportunity with your group. And he said, yes. Another ongoing. So we could create these ongoing opportunities and then we may never have to do trail maintenance again. I'm just joking. I'm just joking. But it was really nice. So I thought, so I'll continue to reach out to Kathleen and see what she wants. But does anyone have any ideas, like if the guided hike isn't enough? And I think that's going to be fun because the kids, they're between, I think if I understand St. Mark's group is going to be between 9th grade and 12th grade. So that's like 15 to 18. That's a nice age and interested in learning about South Florida's history. So that might be a great addition to the hike. But does anyone have any other thoughts on how we could leverage this group? They want to give back to the community through trails. So how can we leverage that in addition to the hike if there's something else we might need?
Well, I'm going to flip it on the other side. Let's ask them what they can offer us. Because they might have some ideas that are out.
Yeah, true. I
Um,
like it.
instead of us always telling, okay, what can you do for me? What, show me the money. What can you do for me? They might have ideas we never thought of.
Absolutely. But I'd like to take some of your good ideas too to the table. So I love that thought. And I definitely will bring that question to them. But does anyone have any initial thoughts? That are there any sections of trail that you've noticed, like Isabel? I know that maybe that section near, I call it your section, that section near Ladasquama has, grown in a little bit. I haven't seen it since I last walked it. I don't know if you've been running those trails recently and seen has anything reached out and touched your leg?
Yes. So tonight's run, yes, there is stuff. The other thing is, once again, at the point There's a lot of junk that is out there. So, I mean, if we had a couple of people that wanted to get out there with some gloves and some bags, I was thinking about doing it this weekend. But that's the kind of stuff, I think, mentioning it to people.
Yeah, you mean the point that we all did that time, the fishing point? Okay, got it.
So
That's
at
helpful.
the very end of East Main Street.
Yep. So Tony and Will, are you familiar with that area? So if you, I could share my screen if you want me to show you a quick map. Let me
I
just-
am familiar with that area.
Okay.
Okay, I think I got an okay to share. Yeah, so the, I think it's you. Yeah. Oh, did I make that go away by accident? Here, yeah. Okay, share. Here. Yep. Okay. So do you see the All Trails map? And yeah, so right where the hiker chick is, that point gets a lot of fishing debris. And so was it last year we went out there and took care of things? Yeah, I think so. Okay, so anything else come up?
I think also just going off of Isabel's point, just doing like trash pickup too on trails.
Yeah,
Like,
so
big help as well.
I like that. So we can, a lot of times the trails, were so blessed in Southborough that a lot of the trails actually stay pretty clean, except where there's some fishing debris and whatnot, and we've found those. But a lot of trailheads, like where people park, that's a lot of times where we're seeing that. So maybe we can do a survey and see if there's some locations that could be a good trash pickup. I like that. Great. Okay, so I'll bring that to her, and I'll also ask the very important question of what would you like to do, or what are some of your ideas for us, and then, and if we can't do them all this year, we can, start to build off on those ideas for next year's projects. Okay, CPA funding, the memorandum of understanding, we redlined it last time. I sent it in, met with CPC last Thursday. They accepted our red lines. Now they're going to send it back to us for signature, and we're good to go. So that's just a quick step. The NOI, the notice of intent, Tom drafted it. We've confirmed that DCR is going to be the signatory as the property owner, and we're going to finalize that tonight. I've given Melissa, the conservation agent, a heads up so that she would review it either tomorrow or the next day, and then it goes off to DCR for signature. I hope it's a quick turnaround. I'm really hopeful. And then what is our deadline, Tom? Do you remember?
The 20th to get on to their next meeting.
Is that Monday? Okay.
I think, well, you know what? Let me just read my notes. I did ask Melissa that question.
I wonder if it was the 27th.
Yes, it was the 20th to be on their 7th meeting, October 7th meeting.
That's so much lead time. Okay, so then let's see how fast we can make that happen and see if DCR.
Well, we can also ask Melissa, can they still submit it on the 20th for review on the 7th with their committee, knowing that the signature is in process?
Yeah, and then we kind of do a swap-a-roo. Didn't even see it. Didn't see it coming. Okay, I like it. So let's figure that out. And then funding opportunity. So that means we need to get on the October 7th commission meeting.
October 7th is the Conservation Commission meeting.
Okay, thank you. Okay, funding opportunities for regional trails projects. There's a upcoming webinar on some future date that I've signed up for. It's at the end of the month, MAPC. It was shared with us from EDC. Thank you, EDC. And I will let you know how that goes and if there's any additional opportunities. I'm not suggesting that we submit multiple grant proposals, but there's a lot of funding opportunities right now. So we want to be very aware and just try to go after whatever we can. Trails maintenance update, I think we just talked about a little bit. And was there anything else that anyone had? I don't think so either. Choate Fund grant, the joint project with stewardship has been kind of a slow kickoff. We're going to be gearing up in the next 2 weeks, and that's involving the town forest project. But also this involves trails in the sense of dog walking and dog waste education. So part of that grant was to fill Tony and Bill in, and Bella, I think, is part of that grant. We partnered with Stewardship is to get signage to go around town on the trails throughout town to indicate where you can walk a dog and where you can't, and to promote picking up poop, dog waste, and the reasons why. It's really about education. Everyone on this committee loves dogs. Half of you have dogs, but because we're in a watershed, okay, 2 dogs. We're in I have 2 cats.
Come on.
We'll talk another day about who's better. I'm just joking.
We all know Winston.
Wait, no.
Guys, I got 6 minutes. Come on.
Okay,
All right.
so anyway, our point is we want to educate the town about why we need to limit where our dogs go and where the waste goes. So part of the plan was to have an outreach program, a couple months of an outreach program. We can integrate that into our Heritage Day. We can talk about it even at the Peninsula Trail. It's kind of like part of the deal, like include that as this is some of our outreach we did, right? Because we want to demonstrate that we've done outreach. And then, working with the stewardship committee, there's going to be another opportunity maybe at Breakneck Hill to have a table and to talk to people about, that's where dog walking, a lot of it happens. So let's educate them there. And then at strategic points throughout town, put up some new signage, but signage that's not so punitive, but more on an educational basis. And not that everything has to be positive, but I really don't want another no in my face. And no one wants a no in your face. We want another message that shares what we're trying to convey, but at the same time, we're not saying, you can't, but we're saying this is why, even though it does mean you can't. But we didn't create the rules. We're just following those very important rules because we're trying to keep our backup drinking water safe. So anyway, that will be getting kicked off. So we'll talk a little bit more about our next meeting. Recycling receptacles, Tom, you and I, we just have to connect, and I've got to give you this stuff. And then there's how many receptacles? We have 4 receptacles. Can I get 4 volunteers? And I'll be one of them.
No, I'll go around town and collect them all. There's no reason for people to then bring it to me. I will take
okay.
care of that.
Well, thank you.
So-
Thank you.
Thank you. So we have 4, just to fill everyone in, 4 monofilament fishing line receptacles at strategic places that people fish around town. And the idea is for them to put their fishing line in there and hopefully not their trash, but sometimes they do. So we just need to empty those out. And I need to coordinate with you, Tom, so I can bring you my box of fishing line. And when we do trash pickup, that will be one of our pieces that we'll be looking for fishing lines. So we'll fill you up with that as well. So we might have a couple boxes to ship off.
Mhm.
That's it. Any questions, comments on anything? Okay, great. And next meeting.
Wait, we have something in the chat. Let me just bring it
Sorry.
up.
Thank you for paying attention.
Oh, never mind. That was from Isabel. Thank you, Isabel.
Okay,
She
great.
has to drop at 8:30.
Okay, good. I do too. Well, no, we all do. Okay, next meeting. So the question is, do we need to meet before Heritage Day? I kind of feel like we might. Heritage Day is on the 11th of October. So if we were to meet on, say, Tuesday, October 5th, it gives us a chance to just do a last regroup about our plan, which Sati and I will execute, and maybe Tony or Bill, if you're available, whoever might want to join us, could help us execute on the 11th. So how about the 5th?
Makes sense.
5th is fine.
Short meeting.
A short meeting? Well, yes, short. Is that a short meeting, an hour? Or shorter?
Yes.
I try to keep them short. Sometimes we just have so many good things going on. Our cup runneth over.
So the 5th at 6:30?
Yeah, 10:05, 6:30. Motion to adjourn, please.
I'll so move it.
And is there who wants to second that?
I will second that.
That's Isabel.
And she has to go, that's why.
Roll call, Isabel Murphy
Yes.
and Bella,
Yes.
Tom McCoolier,
Yes.
and Satyendra Sharma,
Yes.
and Kat McKee. Great. Thank you, everyone. This is a great meeting. Thank you, Tim. Amazing. And thank you, Tony and Bill, for showing up. And I hope by the time October comes around, we will have convinced the Board of Selectmen with our very persuasive conversation about why we need to add you to our committee member in the way that we want to. Bye,
Because
everyone.
he's shy, it's Will with a W, not Bill with a
I
B.
know.
Oh, I'm sorry. Did I call you Bill all night?
You called him Bill. This is Tim.
I'm sorry. I'm sorry, Bill. I
No.
knew it was Will,
That's okay.
but I am looking at that B in your name, so.
No, me too. William, short for Bill.
Checks made out to Bill or will work.
Checks.
Okay.
Okay, we're all about the money tonight. All right, guys. Thank you so much, everyone. I appreciate it.